The sun burns low over a lonely rural road when a red Shelby GT 500 dies, a millionaire's temper flares, and a 10-year-old girl with grease-stained hands quietly says, "I can help." Her ring catches the light, an emerald secret, and everything that powerful men buried begins to rise. The sun burned low on the asphalt as heat shimmered above the Tulane road, turning the horizon to liquid. Cicadas rasped in the ditch grass. A red Shelby GT 500 sat with its hood thrown open like a jaw locked in a silent scream. A white man in a suit prowled the shoulder, phone pressed to his ear, anger pacing with him. Gold watch.
Tight jaw.
Words bitten off. He had the look of someone used to pulling levers that move cities, and right now the lever didn't budge. Maya Johnson, 10 years old, school backpack heavy on her shoulders, slowed. Aunt Renee's voice was always clear. Don't talk to strangers. But something in the man's frustration snagged her, like a loose thread you can't ignore. She shifted the strap, felt the small metal weight of her uncle's toolkit in the bag, and stepped closer. "Excuse me, sir. Need some help with your car?" He turned, surprise flattening into condescension at the sight of a skinny black kid in a baggy MIT t-shirt. "Sweetheart, this is a high-performance vehicle. I need a real mechanic." Maya shrugged, peered into the engine bay with a practiced calm that didn't belong to a child. "When did the problem start?" The man sighed, time bleeding from his watch, and told her about the needle climbing, the power fading, the final cough. "Did you smell anything sweet? Like syrup?" He blinked, startled.
Yes.
"Now that you mention it." "Coolant," Maya said, pointing to the thin puddle under the car. "Radiator hose leak." She taped the split with steady fingers, temporary triage, and told him he'd need water to limp to town. He watched her work and felt something disorienting, familiarity. A crease between her eyebrows, the focused scan of her eyes, the way she belonged inside a problem. "What's your name?"
Maya.
"Maya Johnson." "Andrew Whitaker," he said, awkwardly offering a hand. For a breath, the road held its air. That was when he saw the ring. An emerald stone in antique gold, a crescent flaw deep inside, threaded at the base so it wouldn't slip from a child's finger. Sunlight struck, memory shattered him. 12 years ago, a promise he'd made and never kept. "Where did you get that ring?" Andrew's voice was softer than his suit. "It was my mom's," Maya said, the word catching. "My adoptive mom, Diana. She passed last year." The road seemed to hush. She said it meant a promise. Andrew swallowed. "May I ask where she got it?" Maya shook her head. "She never told me. Said I'd understand one day." He offered her a ride home as thanks. She hesitated, then nodded. In the Shelby's cab, 15 minutes stretched into questions that tried to sound casual. School, neighborhood, who she lived with now. "Aunt Renee and Uncle Leon," she said, "since Diana died." Before that, she looked out the window. Diana didn't talk about it much. "I know I was adopted from an orphanage called Little Angels." The car drifted a fraction. Andrew's grip hardened on the wheel. "Little Angels." The words rang like a bell tolling over water. He dropped her at a neat, modest house and pressed a card into her hand. "If you ever need anything."
Anything.
The ring glinted again, and as she ran to the porch, Andrew stared at his phone as if it might burn him. The past had a pulse. He could hear it. For 3 nights, Andrew didn't sleep. He stared at zoomed photos of the ring, its flaw like a crescent moon trapped in green ice, and sifted old files he'd been trained not to see. On his desk, transfers, sealed contracts, stamped approvals, a familiar signature in curt, decisive ink, his father's. The property records for Little Angels, the timing of Andrew's elevation to CEO, a development blueprint with a clean, scrubbed name, Project Horizon. The orphanage land would become luxury. The children, paper trails diverted, lives reallocated. One name circled in red, Maya Johnson. Beside it a note. Special case. Contact HW. Ramirez, his investigator, called. Break failure. Suspicious. Missing adoption files. A reporter sniffing around Marcus Hayes. Andrew's stomach sank. The ring was a fuse. The fuse was lit. Behind the house, Maya's refuge. Pegboard walls, labeled tools, the warm mineral smell of oil. Uncle Leon stepped in, soft pride in his eyes. You fixed that old radio? Maya held up a 1950s chassis that now hummed softly. Just a few wires, she grinned, twirling the emerald ring. Habit, comfort, anchor. I met a man the other day, she added.
Rich.
His car broke down. He recognized my ring. Leon froze. What man? Andrew Whitaker. Renee appeared in the doorway, color gone from her cheeks. It was time their eyes agreed. The truth couldn't be kept behind doors any longer. That night, at the kitchen table lit like a stage, Maya learned the hidden story. Diana had been a nurse at Little Angels. When the place suddenly shuttered, she fled in the night with a toddler and a name that wasn't hers. Years of careful living, new names, always watching the rearview mirror. Renee slid a yellowed envelope across the table. Your mother made us promise to give you this only if someone from the Whitaker family ever came near. Maya opened it with trembling hands. My dear Maya, the letter began. If you are reading this, someone has found you. There are things you need to know. Morning. A black SUV idled outside Maya's school. Two men watched the exit closely, the way men do when they work for money that worries mothers. That her? The girl with the emerald ring.
Yes.
Mr. Whitaker Sr. wants to see her. Across the street, Leon sat in his truck, jaw set, and dialed a number Diana had left for emergencies. Marcus Hayes, he said when the reporter answered. It's about Little Angels. And a girl with an emerald ring. In a high-floor conference room of glass and echo, Andrew faced his father. Howard Whitaker had flown in early, storm in a suit. What's this about revisiting Little Angels? He saw the name, saw the ring and a photo on the table, and a cold smile spread like spilled ink. So what? Another orphan. We focus on horizon. Billions at stake. Then, because the mask always slips with the familiar, some children are valuable, talents that can be exploited. Andrew felt something old and obedient break inside him. She fixes things, he heard himself say, and understood he'd just chosen a side. The letter in Maya's hands was more than story, it was design. Diana wrote about tests that weren't for health, gifts that were cataloged, files that vanished. She wrote about a ring, a decoy and a vault, a promise and a key. What the Whitakers couldn't control, Diana would hide where they'd never look, in a child's small treasure that only a mother could place and only a daughter could open. Howard called an emergency meeting. Executives gathered, all steel watches and restrained fear. The door swung and Andrew walked in with a quiet woman in a federal suit. This is Prosecutor Claire Bennett. She has questions about Project Prometheus. The room went ice cold. Screens lit. Documents bloomed. Children cataloged. Payments, recordings. The Empire's bones under X-ray. Unauthorized experiments. Falsified records.
Bribes.
Witness intimidation. And then, grainy footage. Diana fleeing with the child. Howard ordering men to hunt them down. The wall of silence cracked. The doors opened again. Maya entered with Leon and a cameraman, Marcus Hayes of the Boston Globe. Andrew's breath hitched. He hadn't asked her to come. Diana always said I'd have to face the men who made us run, Maya said, voice steady. She set her backpack down, lifted her ring, and turned the emerald in a practiced, delicate motion. The stone clicked. A tiny compartment revealed a micro-storage device. Diana was smarter than you thought, Maya said. These are copies of every record you hid. The live camera caught the room's collective heartbeat. 10,000 people watched as the tide reversed. Federal agents arrived. Andrew leaned close to his father. "It's over," he whispered, grief braided into resolve. Howard's fist nodded, but his eyes, those architect's eyes, flickered. As they cuffed him, Maya stepped forward. "My mother taught me broken machines can be fixed," she said. "Broken people have to fix themselves." The camera stayed on Howard's face, empire unspooling in real time. Outside, the skyline wore a different name. "Now," Andrew told the reporters later, "we rebuild. Not just buildings, lives." Stock tickers bled red. Boardrooms became confessionals. What had been done in secret demanded sunlight and signatures. Investigations rippled outward, contracts revoked, assets seized. Andrew watched it all with the ache of someone who has sawed through the limb that trapped him and now has to learn to walk differently. He sold the house that heard too many closed-door conversations. He traded bespoke suits for shirts that didn't require a valet. He wrote checks that felt like apologies and endowed funds that looked forward, not back. 5 years later, spring unfolded across the old orphanage grounds, now labs and light, glass walls and humming workshops. A sign read, "Johnson Center for Young Inventors." In the East Wing, sensors pinged and Maya, 15 now, read the mischief in their timing with the same easy intuition she'd once used on a hot roadside. In the back, Andrew spoke to investors about a program with a repurposed name, Prometheus, dedicated not to exploitation but to opportunity, scholarships, mentorships, no contracts, no hooks. The reversal was complete. The name that harmed now funded repair. On the main wall, photographs of little angels before it was emptied, the headline about Whitaker's collapse, the story that unmade a dynasty and made a community. In a medium-security prison, an old man stared at 4 painted cinderblock walls and refused classes that might soften him. Hubris, even when caged, still plays emperor. 12 graduates in borrowed gowns grinned into futures they could name. Maya, too young to graduate, old enough to lead, took the stage, emerald catching the light, not as a secret but as a banner. "When I was 10, she began, "I fixed a stranger's car on the side of the road. That act exposed something terrible, but it opened a door to something better." In the audience, Andrew wiped at his eyes, unashamed. He had lost a family name and gained a life. A letter arrived addressed in a tidy, resolute hand. Victoria Whitaker, Howard's daughter, who had stepped away from the dynasty and into public service. The letter carried the weight of systems bending. "We found more orphanages," she wrote. "More children protected. Some like you. When you're ready, they'd like to meet you." In the quiet of the office, Maya read the words aloud to Andrew, Renee, and Leon, and the room felt like a chord finally resolving. Prison air is dry and overconditioned, the kind that steals the warmth from voices. Andrew stood at the thick glass, phone in his hand, and waited. Howard shuffled in with a wary stiffness. Time had scraped him down to essentials: bone, regret, stubbornness. "You look older," Howard said, trying for control, landing on small talk. "So do you," Andrew said, almost smiling. Silence took a chair. Howard's eyes slid to the corner camera. "You did what you had to," he said, voice low. "You chose, not me." Andrew looked at him for a long time. "I chose a girl with a ring and a promise I made to her once." The words hung there. For the first time, Howard's gaze wavered. A hairline crack. Howard dreamed in the echo of boardrooms and thought experiments that turned people into variables. Now, the only experiments were memories. At night, he saw footage he'd ordered, doors opening, files moving, a nurse in motion, a child clutched to her chest. The dream always broke the same way. The child turned and looked at him, not with fear, with disappointment. The next visit was different. Howard's posture had shifted, as if an invisible weight had been set down. He started without preamble. I told myself I built a legacy. I did. I just never considered who carried it. He swallowed. I can't ask forgiveness, but I can acknowledge what I did. He met his son's eyes fully. I was wrong. Andrew absorbed the words like a man stepping from shadow into sun. The apology didn't repair what had been broken, but it admitted the break. It named the wound. That mattered. On a mild afternoon, the GT 500 purred up the Johnson Center Drive. Andrew stepped out with a grin that felt boyish. "Everything runs better when you maintain it," he said, and Maya smirked. "Everything breaks if you push it like you're late to meet a governor," she shot back. They lifted the hood together, not because it needed work, but because ritual matters. Maya's hand hovered over components, reading the engine's story, like sheet music. "You kept the temporary tape," she teased. He laughed. A reminder. Of what I didn't know. Of who I met when I stalled. In the center's gallery, a small space bathed in skylight held the original ring schematic Diana had sketched, a mother's design masquerading as jewelry. Next to it, a replica of the micro-device she'd hidden. Visitors read plaques, whispered, wiped eyes. This was not revenge. It was a ledger transformed into curriculum. Maya stood with a group of kids who had hands like hers, curious, steady, fearless. "Systems can be redesigned," she told them. "That starts with seeing how they were built." A boy raised his hand. "Even people can be redesigned?" She considered. "People decide who they will become. That's harder."
But yes.
News came that Howard had agreed to a rehabilitation program. Not much, sessions, interviews, a project to document corporate harm and the ethics that might have prevented it. He wrote pages of notes in a precise hand. He spoke to a visiting class from a state college. He didn't ask for leniency. He asked better questions than he used to. Andrew visited, once more. They spoke about small things, coffee that tasted like burnt worry, the way time moved in squares. Then Howard said, "I made you into an instrument. You refused to play the song." His mouth twitched. He didn't know whether it was grief or pride. "Good." On his way out, Andrew paused and turned back. "You were the smartest man I knew," he said. "I wish you'd been the wiser." Evening laid gold across the center's lawn. Renee and Leon waved from a folding table where the staff was collecting graduation gowns. Laughter rippled like wind through chimes. Maya walked the long path alone for a moment, the ring warm on her hand, the emerald catching the last, kind light. She remembered the road, the heavy air, the angry man, the quiet certainty in her bones that machines could be understood. It had been small, what she'd done. A strip of tape, a jug of water, a ride home. But small acts are levers, too. Sometimes they move the past. Sometimes they move empires. Andrew joined her, hands in his pockets. "We should get going," he said. "Your speech is after the string quartet." Maya smiled. "I'll keep it short."
He laughed.
"You never do." They walked on, not as billionaire and orphan, not as legacy and ledger, but as two people building forward. 5 years ago, Maya said into the microphone, I stood on the side of a road and held a broken thing until it worked long enough to get where it needed to go. Tonight, we stand in a place that used to be a broken thing. Look at it now. She gestured, and the room, parents, students, neighbors, donors, followed her hand. Diana Johnson, my mother, hid truth in plain sight, so I could carry it someplace safe. Andrew Whitaker, my friend, found the courage to open the doors that hid what powerful people did not want seen. Renee and Leon gave me a home that taught me how to use a gift without letting it use me. She looked down at the ring, then back up. Every system is designed. If it harms, redesign it. If it hides, light it.
If it silences, amplify it. And if it broken?
Fix what you can and teach others to fix the rest. Andrew watched from the back, eyes bright. Victoria stood beside him, arms folded, a small smile on her face. Somewhere in a prison, an old man finished writing a paragraph that admitted harm and suggested a better path. It wasn't absolution. It was a beginning. There are roads all over the country where heat shimmers, where cars cough and quit, where help arrives wearing unexpected faces. On a different summer day, another engine will die, another watch will glare, and someone small and unassuming will say, "I can help." That's how legacies are remade, one practical kindness at a time. At the exit, beneath a new sign, every talent deserves to flourish. Every child deserves freedom. Maya and Andrew paused. "We rebuild," he said, the words no longer about architecture, but about people. She nodded. "Not just buildings, lives." Then the doors opened, and the night poured in, full of work worth doing.